Hello friends! I have been in such a witchy mood all year. I have been consuming witchy TV and witchy movies and witchy books, of course, as evident by my last book haul. And so in this vlog, I'm actually going to be reading some of those witchy novels, 3 of them actually, which are Weyward by Emilia Hart, Hexenhaus by Nikki McWatters, and Hex by Jenni Fagan. And I'm going to be starting with Weyward, which weaves together the stories of 3 different women across 5 centuries. And the beginning synopsis of this book, at least the one that I just gave you, is going to sound very similar to another book in this vlog. But hopefully after reading them, I'll have a lot more distinctive things to say about them. I am so very excited to get to this one, based solely just on the cover, because it is absolutely stunning, and I want my entire life to be that aesthetic. And I am hoping that the inside of the book matches the outside of the book. So let's get to it. Oh my, this book was incredible. It just beautifully weaved together the healing power of nature while also showcasing the inner strength and resilience found within all women. And there were pretty heavy overtones of feminism, but not at all in any kind of male-bashing, angry kind of way. The focus of this story truly was the strength within women. And I think that this is my favorite kind of witchy story, about the innate magic of women and not necessarily rhyming spells and potions. Though that does have its place and I do enjoy it at times. The writing and the atmosphere in this book were superb. They were so good. And I am so happy to say that the inside of this book matches the outside of this book. So whatever you feel when looking at this cover is exactly what you're going to feel while reading this book. And that's exactly what I was hoping for. And it delivered that and beyond. This is a stunning book. All of it. Character work, writing, atmosphere, story. Whew, it was great. The audiobook was great as well. It was based on 3 different women, and each woman has their own narrator in the book, and it just kind of goes through each of them in turn. Normally, I always start my audiobooks out around like 1.2, and then I'll gradually increase it as I get used to the story and the narrator. But not with this one. This book had my full attention. Most of the time when I'm listening to an audiobook, I'm usually doing something else, like stitching. Usually I'm always stitching if I'm listening to an audiobook. But I couldn't focus on anything at all except this book. It had my full attention. So I read along with the audiobook from start to finish. I never increased the speed of the audiobook. I stayed at like 1.2 or 3 because it was just, like I said, it had my full attention and I could not focus on anything else because this just absorbed me completely from the very first sentence. And I didn't increase the speed because I was in a chokehold of wanting to do nothing but listen to this book, and I just wanted to keep going, but I also needed it to linger as long as possible. So 100% this is a 5-star read. I think this probably is very easily on my all-time favorites list. I cannot recommend this enough. Ugh, it was great. Alright, up next is Hexenhaus by Nikki McWatters. This is another book that has a very similar synopsis of Weyward in that we're following 3 different women in 3 different time periods, and they were all accused of witchcraft. But this synopsis is not that long, so let me just read it to you. In 1628, Veronica and her brother flee for their lives into the German woods after their father is burned at the stake. At the dawn of the 18th century, Scottish maid Catherine is lured into political dissent after her parents are butchered for their beliefs. In present-day Australia, Paisley navigates her way through the burning torches of small-town gossip after her mother's New Age shop comes under scrutiny. So this has an average of a 4-star rating on Goodreads, so that is very hopeful. Okay, I have finished Hexenhaus, and it wasn't bad. I didn't hate it. It was probably like a 3-star read. It was good. Right, I didn't love it, but it was good. I loved the overall story and the concept of this book, but I just don't like the way that it was executed. I think it was maybe the writing of this story. I tend to like my author to be a little more subtle with giving hints throughout the book. But for me, this writing was very obvious. Where I think they were trying to be subtle and give you kind of clues and connections between these women. But to me, there'll be a whole sentence that just stood out like a sore thumb. Like, yes, you are pointing me down this one specific path, and I know that. And I didn't really like that about it. But it's still, like I said, I do like the concept of it, and the story as a whole was nice. This one was not at all magical. It was definitely a historical take on witches and witch trials specifically. And when I got to the end of the book, there was this little section on the historical accuracy of this book. So I did enjoy learning that some characters and events in the story were true historical people and events that happened. So I did like that part. And I think that had the writing been a little more nuanced and more to my liking, I think I would have really enjoyed this book. But again, I didn't hate it. It was not a bad book by any means. It just wasn't to my specific taste. And with that, I'm going to introduce the last book in this vlog, which is Hex by Jenni Fagan. Iris is a witch in present day, and she goes back in time to visit Galus Duncan on her very last night alive, on the night before her execution, before she's to be executed for witchcraft. And it's just this conversation between these two women talking about what has changed for women and for witches between then and now, what hasn't. And it's just, from what I've heard of this book, it is quite a powerful one. So, it is short, so it shouldn't take me too long to get through, and I will talk to you very soon. Alright friends, so I just finished Hex like maybe 2 hours ago, and she is tiny but powerful. This book was beautiful. It was heartbreaking. It was anger-inducing. It was, I don't know how many emotions could be packed into this tiny 101-page book, but it was. And I mean, it's, even though this was about history, right? This is a true story based on a real girl, not even a woman. She was a child, Gillis Duncan, who was tried and executed for witchcraft in Scotland. It feels so very relevant still today in our own mini versions of witch hunts that we have going on right now. And there was one little quote that I wanted to read to you. Obviously, I don't want to talk too much specifics about the book because it is so tiny, but this is just, it perfectly describes even things that are going on today. So we're talking about, how thoughts and rumors and fear, specifically about fear of the unknown, things that you're unfamiliar with. Okay, that's what this quote is kind of covering. It is a plague, a thought plague. How many people in this world will be killed by thought plagues? Those infections spread. They create nothing but fear and death. They take ordinary people to an early grave, or just scare them as they try to live out their days. Tell me that does not describe many, many things that are happening today. We may not be burning people at the stake in the town square, but make no mistake, we have current witch hunts today. And and one beautiful thread throughout all the books in this vlog have been highlighting the strength of women, the resilience of women, especially when women stand together and for each other instead of against each other. Little spider, please go away. I don't want to kill you. Hop away, please. Hop away. Hop away. Keep hopping. Keep hopping. Keep on. Okay. Sorry, there was a little tiny jumping spider and it kept tickling my hand. But there is one beautiful theme that is found in all of the books in this vlog, and that is the inner strength and resilience of women, especially when women stand together, either as contemporaries or through past lineages. And this book also highlights that as well. So I would recommend every book I've read in this vlog: Weyward, Hexenhaus, and Hex. Alright, with that, I do hope you pick up at least one of these books. I do recommend all of them, especially Weyward and Hex. And I would love to know your thoughts on them as well if you ever pick them up. But with that, I'm going to let you go. And as always, I thank you so much for being here. And I hope that means I see you soon.